If you asked me even 1 month ago who Ange Postecoglou was, I would have struggled to say his second name, never mind anything else. But Celtic Football Club have landed themselves in the position where he will be the team's new head coach. After an unsuccessful bid for the highly rated Eddie Howe, Celtic fans were left to wonder who would be the heir to Neil Lennon's throne. Who would it be? Well, step up, Big Ange. The appointment of Ange Postecoglou has split opinion between the Celtic fans on social media, some being utterly baffled by the decision and others embracing the thought of a mystique surrounding the man who is highly rated in his respective country. So who is Ange Postecoglou? What should we expect? How does he set up his team? Ultimately, will it work? I can't answer the final question, but here's everything you need to know about our new manager. Big disclaimer before we go any further with this video, can I just quickly clarify, this does not mean I'm suddenly all for the appointment of Ange Postecoglou. It doesn't mean that I think everything's okay. I have made my thoughts perfectly clear on this, and my thoughts on the appointment altogether. I will back the guy, I want him to succeed. But I don't want people thinking on social media that I am suddenly all for Ange Postecoglou because I'm trying to hype him up or anything here. I'm simply just trying to create a video, create a bit of background for people who may not be as fortunate enough to be on social media and see things on Twitter every day, so they know who Ange Postecoglou is. It's certainly going to be a bit of a bumpy ride, I'd say. Despite the Aussie accent, Ange was actually born near Athens, Greece in 1965, but moved to Australia at only 5 years old. He started his coaching career with the only club he ever played for, South Melbourne. He spent 4 years at the club where he won the NSL Premiership and the NSL Championship. He also won the Oceania Club Championship in 1999, which led South Melbourne to the Club World Cup, taking on the likes of Manchester United. Before moving back to club football, Ange then spent time with the national team setup with the Australia under-17s and under-20s, where he won a collective 7 championships. He returned to club football in 2008, but after a falling out with the Greek side Panathinaikos board, this was short-lived, so he returned to Australia. He then spent 3 years at Brisbane Roar, where he had some of his best success as a manager, winning 2 league titles and breaking the record for the longest winning streak in Australian sporting history, winning 36 games on the bounce. Ange then stepped back into the international setup in 2013 and guided Australia's senior team to the 2014 World Cup in Brazil, where he was handed a tough group including Chile, Holland and Spain. You may remember the famous Tim Cahill goal from this World Cup, which was nominated for the Puskas Award. In 2015, he then went on to win the AFC Asian Cup, which is the equivalent of the Euros, if you like, with the Socceroos, for the first time in the country's history. He then guided the team to another World Cup qualification, this time for Russia 2018, but resigned from the post before the tournament began because he didn't like the lack of ambition at the federation. Ange said, in the end, people made it very clear that all they were interested in was whether I will qualify or not, nothing else mattered. At that point I thought, okay, let's qualify, then I can go off and do things that were challenging for me. 1 month later, he started his most recent job at Yokohama F. Marinos, where he wanted to change the system and how they worked and played. In the 2019 season, he managed to win the J-League Championship, his most recent honour. He finished 9th the following season, and this current season he sat 3rd upon leaving for Celtic. Sadly, his last game for the club ended in humiliation as he lost his last game to a 4th division side. It's all very well and good me reading you the man's Wikipedia page, but what should we expect on the pitch from Mr. Postecoglou? As a fan who can honestly say they never heard of him a few weeks ago, it's hard to say I know much about his football. So I've sought out the help of Boys Analytics from Twitter, who has done some research into Postecoglou's style of football.
So when I started researching Ange Postecoglou, I wanted to see what he changed about Yokohama F. Marinos instead of just looking at his basic performance metrics like where he was in the league. So I wanted to actually know what he physically changed about that team to make them champions in 2019. When I looked at the data metrics, it became pretty clear the team had changed an awful lot. He'd made them from more of a middling, not really a possession-based side, into a heavily possession-dependent side that focused on short passing and creating high-quality chances. As previously, They were only averaging maybe 50% possession. Now they were up at over 60% possession under him, having a lot more passes per game as well. A few of the metrics that we use to measure this are things like match tempo. So this is passes per minute of good possession. This went way up under Postecoglou as his team started to dominate games. And when you dominate games, just generate more chances and better chances. From Postecoglou, we also get this impression of a high intensity manager. So that's been a word kind of used: intensity, energy, high energy teams. But how do we actually measure that? So one of the metrics used to measure this is PPDA. This is passes per defensive action. So this went way down when he came in, as he instructed his teams to start pressing high up on the opposition. So the lower this metric is, the less comfortable possession the opponents have in their own half. So this indicates that we're going to see a high line. We're going to see forwards pushing right up on defenders on the ball and trying to win the ball back in the final third to create these dangerous final third transitions, which can lead to high quality chances. Another one was challenge intensity. So this is defensive actions per minute of opposition possession. So this indicates. So when this value went way up under Postecoglou, this again indicates, much like PPDA, that the Yokohama F. Marinos team wanted to win the ball back as quickly as possible from the point they lost it. So it's, to me, with these kind of metrics, it seems pretty obvious that he is stylistically compatible with Celtic. We want to see high intensity pressing, we want to see more chances in the final third and high energy football. We can also see from things like the average pass length going down. It's much more possession dominated. Players are much closer together on the pitch, which we'll talk about a wee bit later in their kind of formation style up, as well as their average shot distance also decreasing. So that'll probably be music to Celtic fans' ears, especially after a season of so many long shots from the likes of Christie, McGregor and Turnbull. They'll be more focused on trying to get the ball into central areas, into the box, to create high XG and high probability of scoring chances. So in terms of setup, Postecoglou favours the 4-2-3-1 formation. So that formation, popular under Brendan Rodgers, used quite a lot by Lennon as well, and was used briefly by Kennedy. So it's a formation quite a lot of the players will be structurally used to. However, when you actually start maybe looking at how they play with their high line, high press, the formation is probably not what you'd expect it to look like. So I've kind of classed it as a 2-4-1-2-1 style formation, using like their average positional maps and things like that. So the way this formation kind of works, you've got your two, which is your two ball playing centre backs, who will be used to distribute the ball to the midfield, forwards and full backs. Then you've got your four, so you'll have your two full backs at the side who are pushed up in line with the 6 and 8 central midfielders. And in front of them you'll have the secondary striker, who will be quite far pushed up but kind of acting as a kind of pseudo number 10 secondary striker, supporting the attack. Then you'll have your two wingers, who will be maybe a little bit narrower than your full backs, providing that support to your striker. So it can kind of turn into quite a very attacking formation when they win the ball back. This means that they can attack basically 4v4 or 5v5 if they win the ball back high enough. They're going to be committing men forward at all times to try and get as many bodies in the box. It's pretty clear from watching the Marinos that Postecoglou works quite heavily on where these players are actually making their runs to get advantage over the defenders. I think this will be probably quite good to people that are concerned with how you might deal with a low block. If players are coached well on where they actually make their runs and when they make their runs, a low block can be overcome pretty easily with good quick first time passing, which I'm sure quite a few will be happy to hear about. Defensively, it's a very high risk, high reward game. However, surprisingly, I didn't actually see them concede as many as I thought they would from in transition. They seemed pretty well coached in how to deal with it, especially the two centre backs that were there looked fairly competent. Issues really do arise in this formation because they defend narrowly, and they are in possession. They're quite narrow to obviously coincide with that short passing that was mentioned earlier, so they want to be closer to each other to be able to pass around the opposition. So when they defend, they are quite narrow, so they don't actually get played through an awful lot, but their big weakness defensively is in wide areas. They can struggle with fullbacks getting out to shut down crosses in this narrow formation, and sometimes I would often notice maybe centre backs or fullbacks weren't picking up runners, so that'd be certainly an area of concern for me, and hopefully that's something maybe with better quality players they can work on when it comes to Celtic. But overall, I think it's going to be exciting, attacking, fun football. and I do expect a lot of goals over the next season from Ange Postecoglou's Celtic side. So very happy that he's been appointed, and look forward to seeing how he does.
So there it is, everything you need to know about Ange Postecoglou as he now is the new Celtic manager. It's going to be a weird, adventurous, anxious time for us all as Celtic supporters. We are really diving into the unknown with this appointment. We don't know what to expect, but it's going to be exciting. It's not going to be boring, let's put it that way. So we'll see what happens. A massive shout out to Boys Analytics, and if you haven't already, make sure to follow him on Twitter. A massive thank you for him helping out with this video. I hope I've managed to educate you in some way about Ange Postecoglou in his past. We're all learning together at the end of the day. It's a new experience to us all. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.